Welcome to MoGuard TV. I'm Staff Sergeant Christopher Robertson of the 135th Military History Detachment. In this episode, we feature the Missouri National Guard's response efforts during the historic winter flooding in December 2015 and January 2016. We'll witness Guardsmen as they protected levees and monitored traffic control points, set up an emergency communications network, and provided safe drinking water to affected communities. We'll follow the Chief of the National Guard Bureau as he visits with soldiers and airmen working state emergency duty. Finally, we'll look at the state's transition to Operation Recovery as efforts began to clean up the damage and debris that the flooding left behind. In these first three stories, we'll hear about how the Missouri National Guard helped out in towns that were affected by the flooding of the Mississippi River.
Less than 24 hours after being called upon for state emergency duty, Missouri National Guardsmen from the 1137th Military Police Company were on location supporting local law enforcement in Perry County, Missouri. Record rainfalls in December had raised the Mississippi River to within inches of topping the 33-mile stretch of 50-foot levees. The Guardsmen manned 4 notification control points along Highway 51 that runs through the heart of the Boyce-Brule Levee District. The purpose of the checkpoints was to inform motorists of the potential danger and to create a log of those entering and exiting the area.
In the event that the levee is breached, we have a list of everybody who's in the affected area, and we can notify them and evacuate them if necessary.
Hello, ma'am. All right, where y'all going?
Well, we're trying to get to Illinois.
Oh, yeah,
never mind.
bridge is out.
And there's absolutely no detours.
Not that I know of.
I was afraid of that.
It's New Year's, it's cold, and they're staying motivated. They understand it's their civic duty to perform like this whenever they're called, and they're being extremely professional.
By manning the checkpoints, the Missouri National Guard helped free up the county's law enforcement resources.
An officer at each checkpoint, that would take 4 of our officers, and that would leave 1 deputy to cover the rest of the county, take any emergency calls.
All right, thank you, sir. Good day. Have a nice day, sir. You too.
We had a lot of reservations about pulling all the police and the county sheriffs off for checkpoints because that leaves the rest of the county without patrol. So we put in a request to the state of Missouri, and the Guard came in and they were able to help. The National Guard was critical. They came in and were able to do some things that we didn't have the local manpower, we didn't have the local equipment to do.
The governor basically looked me in the eye and said that the state assets will be at your disposal as long as you're ready to fight this fight.
Many residents, farmers, and businesses chose to remain in the threatened area to do what they could to minimize financial losses.
Even though the river levels are going to be dangerous, the local culture is we want to put this fight on to remove those assets out of that district. So we put together a mission for the National Guard to keep them safe and be able to notify them all the way up to the very, very last minute to where they no longer can remain down there.
Make sure wherever you're at, you got cell service. Sure. That's really all we got. We're still looking at staffing and pushing them back to line up more with the crest and everything like that.
Notification point 3, they saw about 8 vehicles all night, so we're looking to reduce that.
That's fantastic. That's crazy to be able to say that that got done by the National Guard. That was an unbelievable task, to be quite honest with you.
On January 1st, the Mississippi River crested at 45.99 feet on the Boyce Brule levees. The levees held and the anticipated flooding was avoided.
The small historic town of Commerce, Missouri was hit hard with flooding. On New Year's Eve, residents moved out possessions and prepared for more rising waters. A few guardsmen from the 1137th Military Police Company were sent down from Perry County, Missouri, where they had been helping out with notification points and assisting motorists. Rick Walter, Sheriff of Scott County, asked for the guards' help to run security at access points along their Mississippi River levee.
We don't want anybody getting out here because if they have a wreck and they get off on the riverside, well, now you've got a water rescue and you're going to tie up manpower and resources to do that, and you're doing damage to the levees. We don't take any chances with anybody getting out here and doing anything and getting hurt.
Sheriff Walter has a deputy who himself is a Missouri National Guardsman that volunteered for state emergency duty. The sheriff was short one deputy, but he gained 6 soldiers.
He's in another county right now helping somebody else, but we've got other folks here helping us. So I think that's just a matter of everybody just kind of pulling together on something like this and making it happen, making it work.
The job-specific training that these soldiers received prepared them to support local law enforcement.
It's just amazing that the way they come in and they're very professional. They know what they're doing. We just tell them what we want, what we expect, and it's taken care of.
And Sheriff Walter says that if the levee were to fail, he knows he can count on these citizen soldiers to help out.
I have no doubt in my mind that if something like that happened, these guys would be on top of it.
The Missouri National Guard Armory in Festus played an important role during the flood response. When the flooding interrupted their computer network services, guardsmen from the 239th Combat Communications Squadron at Jefferson Barracks were called in to establish a temporary replacement network.
The armory was affected by the floods. We got the call within a few hours. We were here providing them services to keep the mission going. And now that the services are restored, we're still providing additional bandwidth and backup to them so they can continue the mission on here. The 239th is a Combat Communications Squadron. We provide communications anywhere in the world. We provide our own SATCOM, power, network services, everything, down to the user laptop. So we can set up communications anywhere in the world and support up to 3,000 users. Our military can't have the mission without communication, and we provide those services within hours out of St. Louis to anywhere in the state to provide relief for disasters like this and help those guys that are on the front lines fighting the disasters to accomplish their mission.
Now we'll look at 3 stories where the Missouri National Guard assisted citizens and government officials in towns hit hard by the flooding of the Merrimack River. Areas of Valley Park, Missouri have been evacuated due to rising floodwater. The evacuation was part of a precautionary measure to ensure citizen safety if the levee was to break.
We follow the guidelines of the Corps of Engineers. They when to close our levee gates, what road to close because of the flood. And like when it hit 40, that's when they called for to have the evacuation, the mandatory evacuation.
City officials requested support from the Missouri National Guard to monitor the levee, man checkpoints, and provide security for evacuated parts of the town.
As we asked them to leave, we wanted them to feel comfortable that their stuff was going to be protected. We have the police, but we just wanted that other security.
The Valley Park levee is 3.1 miles long and provides protection for the lower east side of the city. The flooding this year has been the greatest test on the levee since its construction. Missouri National Guardsmen are working with Valley Park officials to keep people off the levee to ensure the structure is not compromised. Reporting for the Missouri National Guard from Valley Park, Missouri, I'm Staff Sergeant Christopher Robertson.
Record rainfalls in December caused the Merrimack River to flood Interstate 55 in Arnold, Missouri, shutting down both lanes of traffic on New Year's Eve. Missouri National Guard combat engineers from the 880th, 220th, and 1138th Engineering Companies were called in for state emergency duty to support the Missouri Department of Transportation with water removal and shoring up barriers along the highway.
Today we were called out here on I-55 because the water is covering both directions of traffic, and we started preparing sandbags, and we placed sandbags on top of HESCO barriers on the other side of the roadway. They're bagging them right over there, and then we've been hauling them around on a lowboy trailer, and you can see there's a big pile of sandbags waiting to be placed if need be. Right now we're holding off. MoDOT tells us that they don't think that they need any more sandbags, and that we just need to move the water.
The highway is a main artery for the entire St. Louis metropolitan area.
We got a PLS truck with a water displacement unit, and we're trying to pump all the water off the roadway so we can open up both lanes of traffic.
The vital piece of equipment that shot water off of the highway was a PLS, or palletized loading system, that carried a water distribution module. Water was pumped into the module and then shot over the barriers.
Things seem to be moving along pretty well. Northbound lanes of traffic seem to be pretty well open, and the southbound is still covered in water, but with that PLS pumping water, and we have a second PLS on the way, it looks like we could get it open relatively quickly.
The duties of a combat engineer include providing route clearance of rivers and obstacles to facilitate troop movements. The engineer's equipment, training, and experience proved invaluable in reopening the highway.
High Ridge, Missouri is provided water by this water treatment plant. Because of record flooding all over the state, this water treatment plant has been shut down, and the Missouri National Guard has been called in to help provide the citizens of High Ridge with clean water. The plant now has to be pumped out and sanitized. The Missouri National Guard is working with civilian authorities to supply clean water to approximately 20,000 people while repairs are being completed. During the recovery effort, the Missouri Rural Water Association provided technical assistance to the water treatment plant.
The biggest thing about this is how everybody comes together in a disaster when something comes. And I've worked with the Guard in the past, and in this incident here, they've been absolutely a joy to work with. The response time is quick, working with them is quick, the professionalism is unreal, and they stay till the job's done.
The Missouri National Guard has 2 tactical water purification systems that can provide 30,000 gallons of clean water per day. To ensure the citizens get clean water, each system requires a detailed certification process done by military preventive medicine professionals. The certification is required each time the system is set up and after each move, as well as every 24-hour non-operational period. Citizen soldiers are working around the clock to ensure High Ridge residents get clean water.
Oh, I love it. Seeing all the civilians and all the people from the town waving at us and telling us thank you and how much they appreciate it, it just makes the long hours and the long nights a lot easier.
The community support from High Ridge was unbelievable. It was awesome. I mean, that's the most support I've seen from a community. It seemed like we were getting honks, thumbs up, high fives, people bringing food by to the guys during their convoys when they were stopped in staging areas. The local fire department was very supportive, so it was amazing the support we got.
This next story follows General Frank Grass, Chief of the National Guard Bureau and a native of Arnold, Missouri, as he visits with soldiers and airmen who served their fellow Missourians during state emergency duty.
General Frank Grass, Chief of the National Guard Bureau, and General Steve Danner, Adjutant General of Missouri National Guard, spent the day with Missouri National Guardsmen on state emergency duty. The general, an Arnold, Missouri native, toured Pacific, Missouri and talked with soldiers and civil authorities who served flooded communities.
The military police commander said within 24 hours of getting the call from a dead start, they had troops at traffic control points. And these are folks you think about being on their jobs in their civilian world or with their family somewhere, and all of a sudden they get a call. And they drop what they're doing right then, and just like Minutemen did years and years and years ago, they just took off, running to the sound of the guns wherever they were needed, and went right to work.
The official party visited the Armory in Festus, where guardsmen demonstrated tactical water purification operations used at High Ridge. Soldiers distributed clean water to residents after the city's water plant was impacted by floodwaters. He also visited with Air Guard members who set up a mobile satellite communication system for the Task Force Operations Center due to dropped communications at the Armory. General Grass joined Missouri Guardsmen for dinner to talk with them about their experiences on state emergency duty. The Missouri National Guard continues to support their fellow citizens to clean up Missouri after this historic flood. Staff Sergeant Elise Rich, Missouri Air National Guard, Festus, Missouri.
On December 27th, Missouri Governor Jay Nixon declared a state of emergency. On January 2nd, President Obama approved Governor Nixon's request for a federal emergency declaration. This allowed for federal agencies to assist in the flood recovery efforts, including the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the Environmental Protection Agency, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Governor Nixon announced Operation Recovery on January 2nd and appointed the Missouri National Guard to be the liaison between all state and federal agencies involved.
The citizen soldiers of the Guard are uniquely qualified for this responsibility, having led the state's effort in the expedited debris removal program in Joplin after the 2011 EF5 tornado there.
The goal of the mission was to provide a fast and smooth transition to the start of debris removal and cleanup, which was being done by government contractors. Lieutenant Colonel Grace Link, Director of Staff for the Missouri Air National Guard, was appointed the task force commander for Operation Recovery.
For the local communities and all the debris removal operations going on throughout the different counties, ensuring that we have established good communication and working relationships so that we can speed up the recovery efforts as soon as possible.
Guard liaison officers coordinated directly with local communities affected by the flooding to ensure community leaders and local residents received the most up-to-date information about the debris removal process.
The local field with our liaison officers has been very much a success in us having those officers in each county so they could report directly back to Jefferson City.
Now we'll take a look at how an Air National Guard liaison officer used his training and experience to help two small towns start the recovery process.
In early January 2016, when the floodwaters started to recede, the state of Missouri began the cleanup phase called Operation Recovery. The Missouri National Guard was tasked with supplying liaison officers, also known as LNOs, to the various towns in the eastern part of the state that were most affected by the flooding. Major Greg Orbino of the Missouri Air National Guard's 231st Civil Engineer Flight was one of those LNOs. Two of his 4 assigned towns were West Alton and Portage de Sioux in St. Charles County. The job of the LNOs was to gather and disseminate information in regards to debris pickup that would be done by EPA contractors.
The communication is really important so we can take all the information that is going on when we have our boots on the ground and sending that information up to the leadership to help with organization, decision making to make sure that this operation flows smoothly.
Major Orbino made his initial site visits along with Tech Sergeant Michael Terranova, as well as representatives from FEMA and the Army Corps of Engineers. He worked with Chief Rick Pender of the Rivers Point Fire District for the efforts in West Alton and Mayor Mark Warner in Portage-de-Sioux.
Biggest thing that we were talking about was getting the process rolled out, being able to communicate that to our residents, what the plan was, how we were going to do it, and then the detailed information of what the Guard wanted put out to help work with the contractors to get everything done.
They came out to meet with us and let us know what's going to be available, the type of cleanup can be done, what type of materials they can take, how it needs to be separated out correctly. And they've been real good. I mean, I get a phone call every single day from him asking, is there anything we can do? And do you have any more information about how much debris you think you'll have? Our biggest challenge is getting the correct information to the residents. That's the hardest thing because unfortunately people hear something and they only repeat a portion of it and then it kind of gets turned around.
The best part about the LNOs is you can get the truth of what's going on out there instead of relying on rumors that pass from neighbor to neighbor.
Well, it's been really good working with the Air National Guard. It's been good to have them because of communications. It helps us get the facts instead of hearing them from 3 or 4 different places.
There were nightly meetings at Jefferson Barracks where the LNOs got together along with Guard leadership and representatives from FEMA, the EPA, and the Army Corps of Engineers. The LNOs were asked to share new information that they had gained during the day.
What they saw in terms of damage assessment in all of the counties, and all this information was going to be passed up to our leadership to make sure that we can make the right decisions and focus our resources in all of the appropriate areas.
Since Major Urbino is a civil engineer on the civilian side, he brings a wealth of knowledge and a unique perspective to damage assessment.
As I drive around through all of these towns, I can look at all of the debris and damage going on and have a unique understanding of how bad the situation is.
And he was also able to lean on his military training.
I've worked in and trained in an emergency operations center many times throughout my career, and that's what's actually helped prepare me for an event such as this.
The two towns of West Alton and Portage-de-Sioux were affected to different degrees, so 2 separate plans for debris pickup and removal were implemented. West Alton, with damage being more spread out throughout the town, was assigned a curbside pickup method.
All of the residents have brought out their flood debris to the curb, and the contractor will be collecting all of that debris and hauling it off to clean up all of the yards in the town.
Portage-de-Sioux had a more concentrated area of damage.
Working with the mayor, we were able to select a centralized point that makes it easy for all of the affected homes to bring their debris and not travel a long distance. And at the same time, it allows for the contractor on our side to quickly grab all of the debris and remove it so we're out of their way as quickly as possible.
Amidst all the damage and debris, Major Urbino was able to focus on the positive aspects of his job as an LNO.
One of the benefits of getting called to duty in one of these events, as unfortunate as the situation may be, when a family has to go through a life disruption, I get the opportunity to help a family turn it around and get them going in a good, positive direction after facing such a challenge in their own lives.
It is now my honor to introduce the commander of the Missouri National Guard, the Adjutant General, Major General Steve Danner.
Thank you, Staff Sergeant Robertson, and thank you, viewers, for watching this episode of MoGuard TV. The Missouri National Guard has always answered the call for state emergency duty. The recent historic flooding is no exception. Through our monthly weekend drills and annual training, we champion a culture of readiness so the citizens of Missouri can depend upon the Guard when our state needs assistance. And the Guardsmen who were activated were volunteers. They readily raised their hands to give up their New Year's holiday to respond to the emergency. They are the epitome of the modern-day militiaman. In this episode, you've seen how our soldiers and airmen supported citizens and government officials. They protected levees and informed the public at traffic control points. They guarded personal property in evacuated areas and provided safe drinking water to affected communities. You've seen how our liaison officers work directly with local officials to gather and share vital information. These soldiers and airmen were empowered to be the eyes and ears on the ground as the state transitioned into the cleanup and recovery phase. The Missouri National Guard is always ready, always there, and we are always proud to serve the public during and after natural disasters. On behalf of Governor Jay Nixon and our nearly 12,000 soldiers and airmen, thank you for your support.